Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time joining me, thank you so much for being here. My purpose and intention is to essentially help you know yourself so that you can experience a freer version of yourself and perhaps a much more enhanced way of being, way of living. If you like what you hear, I would love for you to share it with somebody. Click the notification button, subscribe if you like, so that you can be notified when videos are being uploaded. It's usually at least once a week. I always love seeing your comments, so if you feel propelled to comment on what comes through, I read every single one. So thank you again so much for being here. For those of you who are returning, thank you again so much. Again, without you, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And it brings me immense pleasure to connect with higher beings in order to, so that I can bring in certain information that is apparently helping you. So that is my greatest joy, but it's also my gift to you, me giving of myself in order so that you can have a more expanded, a more embodied life experience. When I say embodied, experiencing life in the body, but experiencing your fullness within your physical body. Yay! Can't believe it's already March. I have a lot of exciting things that are brewing in my mind because I feel my own rebirth. So you guys are also in the process of some rebirth or recalibration. So I'll probably have a whole bunch of things, new things to share with you. One of them being a podcast with interviewing different types of individuals. So I would be curious to see what type of individuals you would like me to interview. One of the people that's already on my mind is the author Neil Walsh, who wrote the books Conversations with God. And when I first read those books, I didn't know if I should panic or if I should start laughing, because the tone of voice that was coming through Neil, based on his books, was it felt so familiar to me that I said to myself, oh my God, we're talking to the same dude. So anyway, I was fascinated by it. So let me know who you would like to see. I am fascinated with extraterrestrials and things like that. So don't limit your ideas and just jot them down in the comments line. And in a few weeks, well, let's just see what's going to happen. I have some things that are brewing. Today, we're going to talk about the month of March. And it was suggested to me that March be devoted, if you will, to doing some cleanup. So, of course, on March 21st, we have the spring equinox, at least in the northern hemisphere. So it's a good time to start doing some cleaning or clearing. And it was suggested to me that we focus on specific chakras that you might want to consider when you are looking at doing some spring cleaning. And this is emotional spring cleaning. And whenever we do any sort of emotional spring clearing or emotional clearing, we are effectively reducing the level of quote unquote limiting or negative emotions that are holding us back. And we humans hold on to a lot of that. It's just something that we naturally do. So each pile, and I have 3, will represent a chakra, and I think some piles have more than one. So just listen to it with curiosity and see if any of it applies to you. If none of these messages apply to you, though it would be pretty strange, because my aim is always to have this energy reach those of you who need to hear these messages. So if you are hearing these messages, but it absolutely makes no sense to you, then likely this is something that you might want to return to down the road, because it will, I can pretty much guarantee you, it somehow implies to you as well, or implies somehow is relevant to you as well. And So basically, yes, we're going to go through each pile representing a different chakra. Oh, here's what I was going to say. If you are listening to this, it's almost 100% sure, I'm almost 100% sure, saying 99.9, that you are here to lead. You are being qualified as a leader, an approachable leader. Perhaps in other lifetimes you were not an approachable leader. But what does it mean to lead? Quite simply, to lead is to lead by example. So if you are here listening to this, you are, what they said in a previous video, a professional seeker. And you are likely here listening to this information because you are on a quest towards greater spiritual growth, a certain level of spiritual attainment. And in fact, the whole humanity is going through that. Not everyone is conscious of this process. So you are here, at least at this point of your life, in order to consider leading by example. And when I was tuning into this whole leader idea, one of the questions that came from my ego is, what if I make a mistake? And what was said to me was this: you cannot possibly make a mistake when you are being authentically you. It's impossible to make a mistake. There is no such thing. So when you are being authentic, when you're showing up in your full authenticity, there's absolutely no way that you can make a mistake. And have you ever noticed when you're listening to somebody, sometimes you can perceive that a person is trying to be authentic, but they're not really, they're not really authentic. And when we listen to people who don't feel authentic, our ability to trust is going to be lessened. So a roundabout way of making a statement, this statement is, or this is making a statement in a roundabout way, that when you are showing up in your authentic self, people will naturally tend to trust you. Do you need people to trust you? You don't need them to trust you, but the more they trust you, the more effective work you will be doing. In other words, the more people trust in what you have offer, the more people will apply what you have offer into their own particular lives. And this is when we start making a difference. So you are here to make a difference, like it or not. The first difference that you're making is in your own life. Okay, what does it mean to make a difference? To make something different. To let go of the status quo or create something different, to release ourselves from our prison, inner confinements, and to live a life much more in freedom. You are here to experience that, and in order for you to experience that, you had to go through your own transitions, through your own challenges. And these challenges offered you a lot of important information, and a lot of the time, your challenges have offered you wisdom. And giving somebody practical wisdom helps them to deal with whatever they're dealing with whatever challenge they're dealing with. So you sharing authentically your wisdom has the ability to help someone change their life. Do you need them to change their life? No, that is not a requirement. You don't need them to do anything, but perhaps it's your wish for them. Perhaps you have a wish for others to experience life to the fullest. The only mistake that you can make, which is piggybacking on the statement I made earlier, is attach yourself to the outcome. If you attach yourself to the outcome in terms of what you have to offer and how it's supposed to change people, that's when we could say that that's when we say that maybe you're making a mistake. Why is it a mistake? Because other people's outcomes is none of your business. Oftentimes, we want to control how something happens. But you cannot really control things that happen. The only thing that you can control, if I can even use that word, is the process. So I don't know why forgiveness is coming up. There's someone here that needs to hear forgiveness around an authority figure. So for some of you, there is some indication here that there is a residual energy that you are holding on to in terms of trusting or not trusting authority figure. You are your own authority figure, whether you like it or not. You can choose to exercise that authority, or you can choose to not exercise that authority. In order to effectively take charge of your life, you have to exercise your own authority. And being your own authority is like being your best friend. Why? Because you trust each other. If you don't trust your own authority, whose authority do you trust? So as a leader, you have a certain level of authority about you. Again, it doesn't mean you have to stand in front of a crowd and call yourself a leader. You are simply here to lead by example. Oh, and I lost the train of thought. I'm just going to keep going. When you put yourself in a position where you are sharing authentically information with others, it's the controlling part. What you are effectively doing is you are giving people chance or permission to do something different with their lives, but they don't need your permission. No one needs your permission. You don't need somebody's permission to change your life. But when you share your experiences authentically and you show up in your fullness, naturally people will want to experience more of that as well, or they will want to experience that which you represent. Not everybody, but many. And by the way, I am not saying that who you are is the epitome of everything that it should be. No, it's a constantly evolving process. But I am assuming if you are listening to this, you are on a quest to some spiritual attainment. And since you are hearing this and I'm talking to you, then there is, it's presumed that you have attained some spiritual attainment already. Does that mean you're at the end of the road? There is no such thing. There's no such thing, but you are at a certain quote unquote level. What does it mean to have spiritual attainment? Essentially what it means is to embody the spiritual part of who you are. Not just know it, but embody it. Be that. Be both the human and the spirit, both at the same time. At least that is what's being told to me to say. So when we are aligned with our spirit, and when we live both as a human and the spirit, our lives feel and are very different. Why? That's because the ego is not managing or controlling all our lives. Our spirit is in charge of what we do and how we do it. And our spirit has far greater knowledge and wisdom than the ego does. Which means your ability to live a life that is more enhanced is exponentially higher. And who doesn't want to experience a more enhanced life? So the reason why we're saying all of this is because you as a leader have the ability to share certain wisdom, to share certain information through being and showing up your authentic self. And share that information, that wisdom with others so that they can have the opportunity to experience their life to the fullest. But you are not responsible for what they do with that information. That is not in your control, nor should be. That is under control of whoever receives a message from you or information from you. So if you identify yourself with some sort of a leader where you are, just authentically showing up and leading by example, always know that everyone has free will. Whatever you choose to share is only going to be accepted or not accepted by the individual that you are sharing it with. If they don't accept it, that's okay. If they accept it, that's okay. What they do or don't do with it is not up to you. So it's about recognizing that when you're in this leadership position, or at least the type of leadership that we're talking about here, to live an authentic life, your job is to share your experience and not be attached to what people do with this sharing or with this information. Okay, because some of you are quite concerned about the whole authority thing, or being in a position of authority, or being an authority figure, because it feels like a lot of responsibility. Okay? Well, it is a lot of responsibility, but the biggest responsibility is you. So don't be concerned with how people perceive you. Although we humans, for us it's hard to do. But the less you preoccupy yourself how people will perceive what you are sharing and how their life is going to change or not change based on what you're sharing, the more you can detach from that, the happier you will be. What you are responsible for is what you share, often how you share it, and sometimes who you share it to. If you are here to share spiritual knowledge, but you are surrounded by people who have absolutely zero desire to be in that conversation, then you're not going to start sharing your wisdom unless you are specifically being asked for it. So, just because you have something to share does not automatically imply that you have to share it at all times. Sometimes when you don't share something is better than oversharing or sharing something that does not want to be accepted. So it's important for you to read the room. I don't know who I'm talking to, but this is an important message. Obviously, if you are listening to this, I am assuming that this is somehow going to make sense to you, but I have no way of controlling what you're going to do with it. That is not my job. Okay? Although I have made it my job for many, many, many years. So don't let the idea of being a leader or authority figure scare you. All it simply means is lead by example. And the more free you are of emotional baggage, the more likely you are to freely show up in your authentic self. And that's why the piles today are going to talk about what would be good for you to pay attention to in terms of clearing. Okay? So let's move on through these chakras and let's see what we have. All right, let's see what we have for pile number 1. The chakras that are indicated for you are third eye and the solar plexus. Okay, so right away, if you are having any indigestion issues, or if this is something that you have been experiencing a lot of your life, or if you've had any gut problems or anything to do with your gut, you are likely someone who is withholding a lot of emotions. You are holding emotions back. This is where your willpower is. This is where your will is, where your authority lives. Okay. So because we talked about you being a leader, a person of authority on some level, clearing your solar plexus would really benefit you at this particular time. Okay. Why? Because it allows you to show up differently in the world. If you are holding back, if you are holding yourself back emotionally, then that means that on some level you are afraid. And if you are afraid, you are not going to show up fully. Okay? If you are afraid, for example, of rejection, that fear is going to prevent you from you fully expressing yourself in your full authentic self. You're going to hold yourself back. And remember, you are here to be an example to others. You are here to lead by example. So perhaps by releasing your I want to keep saying sacral, solar plexus stuff, you're going to at some point help others release their own emotions that keep them stuck and stagnant. Okay. Also, if you are holding back emotionally, you are likely not going to be free in expressing what you want or asking for what you want, because that's going to, oh no, that's a third eye, my apologies. That's your third eye. This is how you see, my apologies. Going back, if you are holding back emotionally, it's also going to not prevent you, but it's going to block you from seeing yourself first and foremost to the fullest. It's going to prevent you from seeing yourself for who you truly are. Why? Because you are holding into limited aspects, limited conditioning, limited stories. And that's going to skew how you see you and how you see yourself. Your number one priority right now is to see yourself clearly. If you are seeing yourself through the eyes of your limitations, then you are not seeing yourself clearly. Okay? On the other hand, if you're not seeing yourself clearly, you will not be able to share with others how they can see themselves clearly. Why is it important to see yourself clearly? Because when you see yourself clearly, you know what the truth is. Okay? So pile number one, you're really big on this idea of truth. What is truth? I, as Joanna, that is my aphrodisiac. I am all about the deeper truth. And there's layers and layers and layers and layers upon layers of a whole bunch of different truths. The biggest truth out there, if I can use that analogy, is that we are all part of one and we are all light. Everything else is an extension of that in terms of our own understanding. So, pile number one, take the responsibility off of other people in terms of how they see you, and recognize yourself the way you want to be seen. If you want to be seen as a valuable person, then see yourself as a valuable person, because you are. You are valuable simply just because you are. Okay? But if you're referencing your sense of value based on what other people think or feel, that's a very risky proposition. Why? Because people will always tend to see you how they see themselves, and most people don't see clearly either. Okay? So you are here to not only clarify your vision in terms of how you see yourself and the rest of the world, but also to create a new vision of yourself. Somebody's asking out there, am I a responsible person? So perhaps you're questioning if you are a responsible person. If you are not a responsible person to some degree or to some extent, you wouldn't be here. It takes tremendous level of responsibility to be in a human body. Okay? So solar plexus pile number one and third eye. You might experience over the next few months pressure in your head that often is connected to the pineal gland decalcifying and coming back online, becoming more potent. Okay? So you might experience some funky vibrations in your head, pressure, maybe even ringing in your ears. The more you release emotionally, the more you release your need to hold back, and naturally a lot of the psychic gifts that you are in possession of will become more visible to you. That's just a byproduct of clearing stuff. Okay? You can be the most incredible healer on planet Earth. If you are holding back on to the belief that you are not enough, you are not going to show up as that incredible healer, because you will be holding yourself back. And part of your message, pile number 1, is to share with others how not to hold yourself back. Okay? And when I say not holding yourself back, I think everybody understands what I mean by that. It doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want. That's not what it means. Okay? What our additional message is, what's crossing you? Shine. You are here to help people shine by helping them realize themselves fully. And you do this by shining yourself. Notice this beautiful being is supported by the universe. She is floating on air. Doesn't mean that she's not grounded, but she's floating on air, and she is relaxed into it. She's not fighting it. She's not fighting her showing her light. She is in full possession of her light. She embodies her light. And she's not afraid to show her light. That's very powerful. How do you fully show your light? Well, one way is to show up in your full, authentic self. People want to see who you are, what's inside of you, not who you are trying to be or who you are pretending to be or who you think you need to be in order to be loved. No, people want to see you. Show them that. And if you are afraid to showing people who you are, then you are holding onto some memories, perhaps from a past where you were shining brightly and you were met with perhaps your own demise. So many of you will have a frequency that you are transitioning through that is brought from a different timeline, where you were in fact in a position of authority or even a leader, and you were representing something with yourself, some kind of higher universal structure, and you were met with a lot of discomfort from others. People were not ready for what you had to give. So you might have some fears coming up with regards to expressing, seeing, and being in your full authority. Okay. Reminder, you are the leader already. Whether you choose to practice it or embody it, that's a whole different conversation. We can have that at another time. So one of the things you might want to do is be in the acceptance of that everything that you need in order to be the person of authority or the leader, every single thing that is needed to do that, you have in you already. It's in you. In fact, it's permanent. It cannot be taken away. So you have some past life clearing that you might want to consider. And there's various methods, of course. And if you would like Joanna and the team to help you, I would be honored to do that. But there's various ways. And clearing some past life memories. You do not have to go into past life to clear blockages, because your blockages are in your body, in your now moment. Many times the very effective way to do that is to connect with the emotion, feel it, and ask it to show you the story, so that at least you can have an understanding of what the story is, and the story contains within it a certain belief. You cannot truly and authentically fully show up and shine if you believe that you are not good enough. It will never happen. You will hold yourself back. So pile number 1, I suspect that there is some ancient memories that are lurking underneath your conscious awareness that are keeping you back because you're afraid of fully showing up in your authentic light. If there was ever a time to fully show up and be your authentic self, now is the time. Okay? And if you're getting shivers down your spine when I say this, that's basically solidifying this message as a big yes. Listen to it. Last but not least, unexpected visitors. Okay, so this is showing up in reverse on protection, and let me tune in to what that is. First and foremost, you are uncomfortable in your own body. You are not comfortable in your own body, and that could be due to many things. A lot of it will be rooted in some sort of trauma, okay? Where you felt the need to literally escape your body because you were experiencing so much pain, either physical or emotional pain. So for those of you who connect with that, who resonate with that message, you will often find yourself living predominantly in your head. Okay? This is where the stories are. Why? Because when you're in your head, you are not in your body. And if you are not comfortable in your body, you're going to try to escape from being in the body because it's uncomfortable, and you're going to go right into your head. Okay? The problem with being mostly in your head is that it's full of stories. This is also where your identity is. Okay? This is where you tell yourself things. On the other hand, your body knows. So your stories may be telling you a certain truth, but your body is holding perhaps to some other truth. Pile number one, it would be very important for you to recognize if this message makes sense to you. Do I feel uncomfortable being in your body? For example, if you are extremely judgmental of your own body and you compare yourself to other people, you are likely not feeling very safe or good being in your body. Okay? A better way to deal with that is to accept where you are in this moment, and then, if you choose, improve upon it. Okay? If you are 5 feet tall, but you're hoping to be 5'6", it's likely not going to happen. So try to compare yourself to someone who is 5 feet 6 inches tall, and you are 5. You're constantly trying to be the person you will never be, ever, 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 ever. At least not in this lifetime, I don't believe. Could you grow extra few inches on your legs? If you practice long enough, you probably could, but there's pretty much no human on earth that has that level of devotion and that level of focus to devote pretty much their entire life to growing their legs, but they could. Okay? Simply because your focus is not going to be on it. Okay? So rather than trying to be someone you're not, accept yourself for who you are and then improve upon it. You will never be like another person. You are not supposed to. No, you are never going to be like another person. You are not supposed to. You are supposed to be you. Who is you? You get to define it. You get to define who you are. Now, I'm not going to get into complicated subjects that are very prominent in our society right now with regards to the female, male. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what this message is wanting to say. Be okay with who you are. And know that who you are today can change tomorrow, simply because you decide to change. Who you are, or who you perceive yourself to be, is actually not permanent. It's not permanent at all. You can perceive yourself to be an insecure person and tomorrow perceive yourself to be a very secure person. It generally doesn't happen just like that, because there has to be some considerable work to be and shifting that needs to happen in order for you to all of a sudden feel as a secure person. It's a process, but you can absolutely change how you identify yourself. Do you know that? Do you remember that? So it's irrelevant how other people see you. The most important thing is how you see you. If you believe that you are an authentic person, if you believe that you are showing up in your authenticity, And because that's very powerful. And that kind of power rubs somebody the wrong way. That is not a sign that there's something wrong with you. It's a sign that somehow this person is not resonating with the authentic you. All you're doing is you're just showing your light. Perhaps you showing your light is making that person, it's triggering that person because they're not able to show their light for whatever reason, probably because they're afraid. Just because someone is afraid of seeing the truth does not mean you have to hide your light. I'm not saying that you are here to tell truth to everybody. Don't tell anybody anything. Wrong approach. Be an example. So that's what I have for you. Pile number 1, beautiful messages. Let's see what we have for you, pile number 2. Let's see what chakra wants to be worked through. We have the heart chakra, beautiful. So this is about how you give and receive love. You are here on this planet Earth to learn how to love fully, but it's not to learn, I mean, yes. But more than that, you are here to remember who you are, which is love. As a leader, perhaps you are here to help others see that as well. But if you cannot see it in you, if you cannot see you as the source and love, how can you help others see it in themselves? You can't. If you see yourself as insignificant, for example, how will you share with others how to see themselves as significant? How will you know how to do that? You won't. So first and foremost, you are here to learn how to see yourself through the eyes of love, which is how the universe sees you. God, universe, source, whatever name you want to give it, sees you through the eyes of love. And it is the type of love that you probably have never experienced because it's called unconditional. Judgments, there is no such thing. Pile number 1, how do you judge yourself? When you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you see? Are you looking at yourself through the eyes of love, or are you looking at yourself through the eyes of judgments? If you are looking at yourself through the eyes of judgments, then you are seeing yourself as less than who you really are. Why on earth would you want to see yourself in limited ways unless this is the experience you wanted? Now, of course, you're going to say, well, Joanna, I don't want to experience my life in limited ways. Perfect. Change how you see you. It's that simple, but very difficult. Why is it difficult? Because you are used to seeing yourself in a certain way. It's a habit. It's a habit. If someone has told you that you are not smart over and over again, as an example, when you were growing up, you adopted the identity of someone who is not smart. You could be the smartest person on the planet. But if you do not see yourself as the smartest person on the planet, you are never going to fully engage in all your smartness. You're going to hold yourself back. You're also going to hold yourself back in terms of how you give and receive love to yourself and to others. Because if you believe that you are quote unquote not smart, then you will not want people to see you as that. So you will hide. You will hide. And when I say smart, that's just an example. It could be anything. Anything that's limiting to you. Okay? So it's similar to pile number 1, but not exactly. So you might want to look into pile number 1 and see how that connects. But you are pile number 2. Learning to approach life through the eyes of love. When you see everything and everyone as part of unity and oneness instead of separation and rejection. Everyone is here doing the same thing, being on the same path, but we are just having different experiences. You and I are no different other than the clothing, and I mean the physical clothing that we wear. And you might be born with female parts or male parts, or both in some cases. Other than that, it's a human condition. You are here to have a human condition. How you realize yourself in this lifetime, it all depends on you. You are a sovereign sovereign being. Sovereignty is very big to you. It's no longer playing the game from the space of who am I supposed to be? It's more engaging with life from the space of who do I choose to embody? Who do you choose to embody? Do you choose to embody yourself fully, or do you choose to embody yourself in limited ways? You decide. For most individuals, it's not a conscious choice. It's a very much an unconscious choice, and that's why it's important for pile number 2 to look at how you are making your choices, and what is how. Let me rephrase the statement. It's important for you to understand how you make your choices in terms of how you give and receive love. And do you make these choices from a space of scrutiny and scarcity, or do you make these choices from a space of wholeness and oneness? Because depending on how you see yourself, your choices will be reflected by that, and so will your experiences. It's no longer to tell yourself that you are good enough anymore. It's not, I'm good enough. No, that's no longer enough. Telling yourself that you are good enough is like saying, okay, well, tomorrow's gonna rain, and it's just like, okay, whatever, tomorrow's gonna rain. You need to live it. You need to be it. If you believe that you are more deserving of something, don't just keep telling yourself, I deserve more. Be it. Believe it. It's called embodiment. When you embody something, you will never have to tell yourself anything. You're just going to be it. You're just going to be it. So it's important for you, pile number 2, to recognize what it is that you are embodying right now. What sense of self are you embodying? Who are you being each and every moment? And of course that fluctuates, sometimes you have to be mom, sometimes you have to be dad, girlfriend, boyfriend, boss. And I'm not talking about that. Internally, inside of you, who are you being each and every day? Who is showing up every day in the morning? What lenses do you see the world through? And are those limiting lenses, or are those lenses that allow you to experience life to the fullest? It's important for you to recognize what type of lenses you do. What type of lenses you see through. Refusing to see. So there is something that you are not seeing right now, pile number 2, and it would be really important for you to see with respect to how you give and receive love. Okay? You are more than competent, I am hearing. It's just that you are not giving yourself more chances or choices. You are limiting choices and chances for yourself. In other words, you are saying no to life. How are you saying no to life? Do you desire to receive more prosperity, and you don't feel prosperous right now? Then if you don't feel prosperous, how do you feel? And what story is it attached to? What belief is underneath it? If you don't see yourself as an abundant person, then you are not living the abundance. You can't. You have to be it. You have to embody that energy. So if you are not embodying the energy of abundance, what are you embodying? If you see yourself as a very limited person, you are virtually limitless. Yes, you have your limitations in a physical body, absolutely. But beyond that, your spirit is unlimited, and you have access to your spirit, which has unlimited knowledge. Don't let your short-sightedness stop you from becoming free. So there's something you're not seeing about yourself. Now, if you can't see it, you can't see it. Well, what is it that I'm not seeing about myself? Well, you can't see it. So in this situation, perhaps it would behoove you to ask for a helping hand, ask for guidance, ask for someone to help you see that which we cannot see, that which you cannot see. Because often when you're in something, you can't see it. You have to almost remove yourself or have someone who is a bystander to look at the situation and be able to see from a different perspective. You need to adopt a different perspective about yourself. By the way, you don't need to do anything. But if you want to live a more fulfilling life when it comes to giving and receiving love, you need to be able to see yourself in a different way. And I almost want to say it's not an option anymore. You need to be able to see yourself in a different way in order for you to keep moving on the trajectory that your soul has for you. So pile number 2, you are in a space of change, which is apropos for spring cleaning, by the way. Declutter. Into the unknown. So there is some issue with you trusting yourself. Maybe you trusting your spirit. Maybe you are not trusting your own authority. There's something that you are not trusting about yourself. You don't trust the unknown. Well, most people have a hard time with that. You don't trust what's going to happen. Yeah, lots of people have that. But if you have a strong inner core, the whole trusting thing becomes a little bit easier. So there's some challenges with you, pile number 2, around not trusting yourself fully. Perhaps you don't trust yourself to be the leader that you are. Remember what I said. Everything you need in order for you to be on this path and be this leader, to lead by example or to lead by example, you already have it within you. You have not been shortchanged. If anything, you are likely shortchanging yourself. How? By limiting beliefs. We all do it. It's a human condition. Okay? But the not trusting here is a big deal. I just heard you don't have to necessarily trust what's in front of you, but it's important that you trust what is inside you first. My brain is trying to figure that out. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but in other words, your first priority is to trust in you. It's to trust in you. Develop a greater level of trust towards you, towards your own authority. Okay? Because when you do that, your level of intuitive knowing is going to amplify, increase. And your intuition is essentially the voice of your soul. This is the universe speaks to you through intuition. Okay? And remember, your soul has access to infinite information. So when you develop this trust in your intuition, you are in a position to have a lot of information and a lot of wisdom that will help you trust that which is in front of you. It's a process. It's a process. So if you've learned not to trust myself, like I've learned not to trust myself when I was growing up, I've talked about it before, then you are naturally going to be someone who has a tendency not to trust yourself, and you will give this trust to other people. Other people don't know what's best for you. Well, some maybe do, but other people don't know what's best for you. You should know what's best for you. You don't know what's best for you, then know that you don't know yourself. Then you are not an authority. You are not embodying your own authority. If you don't know what's best for you, then you're not in your own authority. Somebody else is wearing it. So pile number 2, who is your authority? Who do you trust? Who do you trust more? Do you trust more others or yourself? I'm not saying don't trust others. That's not it at all. In fact, yes, please trust others, but not over and above yourself. Now, in certain situations, when you are feeling emotionally all over the place and you can't really access that trust, then you need someone to say, hey, look, let me remind you, this is how far you've come. Just to remind you that you have all the inner resources inside of you. If sometimes it takes a trusting person to remind you of that, great. But at the end of the day, you have to learn how to trust you. Your life depends on it. Your entire experience depends on you trusting yourself. Be the leader of your own life. pile number 2, and maybe this is what you are here to share with others, is how to be leaders in how people can be leaders in their own lives. It's very powerful. There will be leaders in the world, of course, and there's a whole bunch of stuff happening around the whole idea of, what's a good leader? Who's a good leader? Do we have good leaders? What does it take to be a good leader? What does it take to be a leader? You have to be your own leader, okay, first and foremost. So that's what I have for you, pile number 2. All right, let me see what we have for pile number 3. Incidentally, when I was tuning into your energy, I received a symbol of a peacock. So you might want to look at the symbology of what peacock represents, because it bears some significance in terms of your messages. And to me, the most obvious energy that peacock represents to me is pride, being proud of what you have, being proud of who you are, and displaying your magnificent parts of you when appropriate. And the male peacock spreads its tail when he's trying to impress, likely female. That's my understanding. There's probably a lot more. So the peacock is not afraid of being who he is, truly being who he is. He doesn't, in fact, he wants to show himself in all its glory, and then the female will accept it or not. There is very little he can do about whether a female accepts him or not. All he's doing is he's doing his best, just being him. This is a message for you, pile number 3. Just be the best version of you and show up with all your full glory. Put what you've got on display when appropriate, and that is the best you can ever do. I think that's a very beautiful message. It tells me that you've arrived at a certain moment in your own journey's evolution where you can step more into that. You can be more that, like a peacock. Of course, the shadow side of a peacock is ignorance. So that's the extreme. Everything has its opposite side. So when you look at the symbology of a peacock, look at both the positive traits and the quote-unquote less positive traits, and see kind of where you are. Where you want to be is likely somewhere in the middle, not in any extremes, but that's true for anything. So let's look at which chakra wants to be communicated with. Interesting. This is the base chakra. This is the root chakra. This is the chakra that basically connects you to planet Earth. It gives you a sense of stability, security. If you are not feeling stable and secure in your own body, you are going to have a very difficult time displaying all your gifts, because you're not going to feel safe to do that. Okay? So what I'm looking at is a scenario where in the near future, somewhere along the line, I see you offering something of yourself, and putting it on display. But before you can be that person in that scenario, you first have to deal with some root chakra stuff. Okay? Some of you are quote unquote deeply anchored to your past, and that is not allowing you to be that person quote unquote in the future. So there are some core endings or cord cutting, if you will, when it comes to the ideas of safety and security. If, for example, you have grown up in a home where you were constantly fearing because your parents were fighting, this is how I grew up, then you will develop a sensation in your body that tells you that it's always, there's a need to always be scared. It's like you will make that your foundation. So if you have a lot of primal fears that have not been addressed, fear of survival, then this is a good time for you to do just that, because without a strong, stable foundation inside of you, you're going to have a very difficult time expressing all your gifts. And you are here to, you're the peacock, you're here to express what you've got. You're here to show yourself off in appropriate manners, of course. Does that mean that all the other chakras everything is fine? Generally, when the first chakra got some stuff, it affects every single chakra, right? So think of your root chakra as basement. If the basement gets flooded and the water stays there for a long, long, long time, you may not on the first floor be aware of this basement, but sooner or later the basement starts rotting, and then what ends up happening is the bottom floor starts to collapse because it's a weakness. It becomes weak over time. So when we have a weak foundation, we can't, that foundation cannot support something that we're trying to build that is really strong. And ultimately, everyone wants to feel good about themselves. So what they're saying here is, if you don't address your survival fears, you're always going to feel fearful. And that's going to affect you, how you feel about yourself, because you will be predominantly focused on survival. Okay? Now, in the old days, if you lived in a community and you were excommunicated, that equaled pretty much a certain death, because there is safety in numbers. Perhaps in one of your lifetimes, you were the one that were rejected, and you had to go and live on your own, and you had to fend for yourself amongst nature, which is very tough, and likely you got killed. So in this lifetime, you're not going to be eaten by a bear or a wolf, but you might feel rejected. And although rejection stems for me more in sacral chakra, I believe that's sacral or solar plexus, not feeling safe inside of your own body, not feeling safe being you, is absolutely going to, what's the word I want to use, please, affect how you feel about being rejected, okay? Because you're already not feeling safe, and rejection just makes that unsafe feeling more. Okay, so pile number 3, I am pretty sure that many of you have some challenges around the fear of rejection. Most people do. As a matter of fact, I believe it's one of the biggest fears, especially when it comes to public speaking. I believe that fear of rejection is, or ridicule, is first before death. So people are more afraid of being rejected than dying. What does that tell you? Okay. Also, if avoiding rejection is your primary factor, if that's your goal, you're going to spend your entire life trying to avoid rejection, which 9 times out of 10, you can't make it happen, because life is just that way. Sometimes life will reject you, not because it wants to reject you, but because it's the wrong fit. Okay? Something can be a wrong fit, but it doesn't mean it's something to be rejected because it's less than, not valuable. It doesn't mean that, just it's a wrong fit. So pile number 3, you have you have some issues around fearing rejection. Okay, so let's see what else we've got. Spread your wings. So when you have fears of rejection, and again, I feel some of you likely have experienced a lifetime where you lived in some sort of a tribal type community, and you were excommunicated, you were ousted, and you had to fend for yourself. During those times, it meant pretty much a certain death. So for you, fear of rejection may actually be linked to fear of dying. Okay, that's how deep it goes. And it's amazing how it works. So you're obviously not thinking, if I get rejected, I'm going to die. But there's a part of you that believes that because to you, at some point, rejection meant certain death in some other lifetime. So pile number 3, I can pretty much guarantee you, you have some unresolved fears around rejection. The first thing you want to acknowledge is this: how do I reject myself? How do you self-reject? Because here's the thing. If you owned all parts of you, if you equally loved all parts of you, if you didn't reject any aspect of you, you wouldn't be living in the idea of lacking something and then trying to fill that lack from the outside. You would just be a whole person, which you are, by the way. But you may not feel that. So, rather than fearing rejection from outside, look out how you reject yourself on the inside. And then learn to bring those aspects back by first accepting them, that they're part of you. If you feel a certain way about you, there is no point in denying that that exists. You have your reasons for it. So rejecting anything that we don't like is a form of self-deception. How do you deceive yourself? We all do it all the time. Oh, I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to ignore it. Okay, well, that something has a message for you. Why would you want to ignore it? Isn't your life important to you? Okay. You are on the road to something big, whatever that means to you. Whether it arrives in a small package or a big package, I don't know, but it's something substantial. First and foremost, you are here to evolve. Evolve with the rest of the world. The world is constantly evolving, and right now we're in a steep evolutionary process. You are here to help people spread their wings. How? By first you realizing you have wings, and number 1, number 2, you can spread them if you want to, because it's a choice. In other words, you are choosing to no longer have your wings clipped. Whatever that means to you. And you can't help others learn how to fly if they are not willing to learn how to fly, so forget it. But you can't teach anyone how to fly unless you know how to fly. If you only have the concept of flying, you don't have the experience of flying, so your information is limited. No, you're here to give the whole package. You're here to share you with the world. In other words, show what you've got. You will never do that from an insecure position, from a position where you are fearing someone rejecting you. You'll never do that. You will never be fully yourself, showing good goods, if you fear rejection, because you are always coming from the space of lack and not being enough, not having enough, something not enough. You are fearing not being enough. And that's such an extraordinary statement for me to even say, because to me it almost makes no sense. How can you be not enough? It doesn't make any sense. What do you mean you're not enough? Enough for what? Enough for building ships? Well, you're not here for that. Trust me. Whatever you are here for, you are more than enough. You are more than adequate. You are more than enough. Times 1,000. So if you're here, hearing this on your path right now, you are enough. You are more than enough. Now, what will you do with that? Oh my God, I am enough. Holy shit, now what? Interesting question. Pardon me for my swearing. Imagine tomorrow you woke up and all of a sudden you felt you were enough. You were just fine. You were not fearing rejection. You were just, oh my God, I'm just me. I'm just me. I'm just me. It's quite a revelation. So you would wake up tomorrow morning and realize, oh my God, I'm just me. I have no fears. Fear of rejection, what's that? What's that? I have no concept of it. What will you do? What would you do? Whatever your answer is, this is what you're likely here to do. You would spread your wings. That's what you would do. When you embody when you embody I am, okay, and then decide whatever that is, when you embody that, you're not going to care too much about rejection because you realize you're fine. Rejection or not, you're fine. Rejection doesn't mean anything about you. It's just the concept. It's part of the experience. You are not the rejection, nor is the rejection you, unless you claim it. Stop claiming rejection as something that's yours. First, you have to stop rejecting yourself. So do you know how to get to that peacock position where he's fully spread, showing his tail, and everybody gawks? I gawk. I take pictures because it's freaking amazingly beautiful. Why wouldn't I gawk? It's designed for me to be seen. You're here to do just that. Be seen. First, see you. See the parts of you that you have been hiding from. Parts of you that you are avoiding. Parts of you that you are afraid of. Look to accept that rather than rejecting it, and then see what happens. You know what's going to happen? You're going to fly. Well, technically you will not physically fly, but it's going to feel like you are flying. Why? Because it feels so incredible. It feels so incredible to realize, to make it real inside of your body that you lack no thing. Doesn't exist. You have a concept, but you lack no thing. Why? Because you are part of everything. You are part of all that is. You are part of the one. Some call it God, whatever you want to call it. That realization is massive kick to the ego. I'm not suggesting you should kick your ego to the curb. Ego is beautiful. Don't kick it. Love it. But don't let it take control over your life. When you are terrified of being rejected, that's your ego taking charge of your life. Not only that, it's the afraid part of your ego that's taking charge of your life. In other words, it always has you living in fear. Imagine letting go of that fear, or whatever fear you have that is preventing you from being fully seen and recognized. Okay? Whatever concept you are holding on to. My apologies, something just stopped playing. So, are you here to spread your wings? Yes. It is only from that position that you can help others learn and teach them how they can spread their own wings. First, you have to remind them they have wings. Of course, it's a metaphor. Then you get to remind them that they get to choose to use their wings or not. It's up to them. Okay? Whether they choose to fly or choose to stay grounded, that will affect their own inner freedom. That's up to them. You're here to help people realize that their freedom they're searching for is on the it's inside of them, and it is up to them to decide how they want to feel. Is it so simple and practical in practical world? It's a little bit challenging, but that's what you're here for. In other words, you're helping people realize who they really are by making different choices in terms of how they see themselves. So if someone feels trapped, but they're not realizing that they have the choice not to feel trapped, if they don't realize they have that choice, they're never going to make that other choice. They're always going to feel trapped. Your job is to help them realize, of course, if you're trapped in a prison, two different things. But if you're feeling trapped, then it's nothing really that's trapping you. It's you trapping yourself. It's part of you trapping you. What part is that? It's about you helping others understanding themselves from inside out. The beautiful words, know thyself, it's essentially know you. Okay? That's your purpose here. You are here to be the leader in realizing who you are, which starts with understanding yourself. Okay? Last but not least, fields of dreams. Because it's coming up in a reverse position, it's telling me that you are prone to a lot of negative thinking or fear-based thinking. Now, of course, if you have a lot of primal fears that have been undealt with, of course you're going to have more negative slanted, more fear-based slanted mind, because this is the energy. This is your foundation. It's not safe. So it's about learning to observe your thoughts rather than becoming your thoughts. For example, if you have a thought, and I'll use this because it's funny. If you ever say to yourself, oh, I feel like shit. That's a thought you have about you. Does that turn you into poo? No, clearly not. Right? So it is okay to have a thought without making the thought be you. Okay? If you have a thought, oh, I feel insecure. Okay, it's okay for you to feel that. But don't claim it. Don't claim it by saying, I am insecure. Because every time you say, I am, and anything that follows is like a command from the universe to deliver to you. So if you do feel insecure, if you are fearing rejection, then you might want to start on looking at your thoughts and your own projections and ways you identify yourself, and change how you identify yourself, which will begin to change your thinking process. Your thinking process leads to actions. Actions lead to certain outcomes. Can you control the outcome? Generally not. The only thing you can control is the process that leads to the outcome. So don't try to figure out how things are going to reject you, or people are going to reject you or not reject you. Don't try to control the outcome. Look within yourself and ask yourself this question: which place am I coming from? Am I coming from fear, or am I coming from lack, or am I coming from other spaces? It is okay for you to have fear. This is not saying get rid of fear. No, that's foolish. It's okay to have fear. Don't let fear control you. There's a big statement right there. Okay? So perhaps one of the messages you have for humanity is, look at the aspect of fear and how fear limits our experiences. Some fear is normal and it's absolutely necessary. Too much fear, well, is going to keep us down. So looking at your own fears first and foremost, well, perhaps that's the first step. So that's what I have for you, pile number 3. That was a pretty strong message, but I really liked it. So thank you so much for being here. I would love to hear your comments. Happy March. Crazy. We're 3 weeks away from spring. Yay! Can't believe it's already March. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you again. Please share, like, comment. The more you share, the more you subscribe, the more the videos are being propped up top on YouTube's list. Otherwise, they just kind of remain on the bottom, and it doesn't help to grow the channel. And my purpose, like your purpose, is to help people experience more of their inner freedom. So the more we can expose that information to the world, and people will align with it or not, the better chance we have at literally helping shift our lives and planet Earth. So thank you again so much. I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.